speaking of Ole Miss, let's go to Oxford.
All right.
Because the expectations are as high in Oxford as they have ever been.
Absolutely.
This is a team that won 11 games last year, and we are expecting them to probably make the playoff. And that's why, as their ceiling, I'm saying not only make the playoff, but win a playoff game or two. That is, I'm not ready to go national title as their ceiling, but
sure,
I definitely feel like they can get into the playoff, win some games, maybe if you can win some games, maybe you can win them all. But
right.
This is the rare occasion where somebody, it feels like, did improve their line of scrimmage dramatically in the transfer portal.
Yes.
And nobody ever does that.
Right. And that's, I think I will go as far to say, Andy, I think this is a team that can win a national title. And I think that starts offensively with Jaxson Dart. This is somebody that's going into his third season as the starter for Ole Miss. Offensively, this team goes where he goes. If he can take care of the football, continue to be a consistent chain mover for the Rebels, they have a chance to genuinely be the scariest offensive unit in the country. And that's a team that lost Quinshon Judkins. I totally understand. But the guys that they brought in at that position, Logan Diggs from LSU, who was the primary back, Henry Parrish, who actually signed with Ole Miss out of high school, transferred to Miami, led them in rushing for 2 years, and then they bring him back to Ole Miss. And they also signed a guy named Ja'Cory Croskett Merritt, who had nearly 1,200 yards on the ground and scored 17 times last year for New Mexico. They're going to approach that room with running back.
You haven't even mentioned Ulysses Bentley, by the way.
Exactly. They have so many weapons on that side of the ball. Plus, they reaffirmed the offensive line. They landed some of the biggest fish in the portal on the defensive line, and Walter Nolan and Prince William Mielen. I don't see this team struggling in too many games here. When you look at the schedule, I think they start 2024 super hot. I think they end up going, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-0 at minimum.
Yeah.
And then you have your tough stretch. You go to LSU on the road. You face Oklahoma at home, which could be a win. Arkansas on the road. I don't see this team losing more than 2 games in the regular season.
There's a world where Georgia shows up to Oxford and Ole Miss is undefeated.
100%. And wins. But there's a world where Ole Miss wins that game.
Yeah, I've got the floor for them at 8-4, and that's abject disaster if things go completely
that's
wrong.
Bottom out. Completely bottom out.
Yeah, because they do play some good teams, and they play some teams like we talked about, like the Florida situation when they go to Gainesville right after they play Georgia. That could be a little bit tricky. But if Florida's bad at that time, like let's say they've already fallen off or hit a really bad stretch, then no, it's not going to be tough. Like you're going to win that game. But like we don't know what Oklahoma is going to be. LSU, we just said there's a high variability there. And then LSU may also be one of those teams that one day they can beat anybody in the conference and one day they can lose to anybody in the conference. So they're a tough one to peg. But I think you're right. And you mentioned the running game at Ole Miss. One of the reasons running games can be so good. So Trey Harris is awesome.
Absolutely.
A healthy Juice Wells, and granted, we didn't see that last year. He was hurt in the spring.
Right.
But if you have a healthy Juice Wells and Trey Harris and Prieskorn, their tight end, that is a terrifying passing game.
No question. And
to attach to that running game.
The quarterback can run the rock too. That's the thing is, like, you have to account for Jaxson Dart's legs too. And I just don't see a world in which Ole Miss isn't in the SEC championship. Am I crazy for saying that? I just feel like when you look at it on paper, Jaxson Dart comes back. He's one of the most experienced players, not in the SEC, but in the entire country in terms of reps at quarterback. I just feel like this Ole Miss team, this is what they've built. This is this is the moment for the Ole Miss Rebels. And if they don't do it here, I don't know when they will.
No divisions. You're not playing Alabama. You do have to play Georgia.
Yes.
But this is a manageable schedule. I think you're right. I think Atlanta should be a realistic goal. And I imagine that's what they're talking about internally in Oxford. Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, Subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples on 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.